70 years ago in Washington, D.C., Marian Anderson's beautiful contralto voice echoed from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, where 75,000 people were gathered. When she sang the last few bars of My Country 'Tis of Thee, the newsreel cameras captured a moment for the ages. Let freedom ring. Anderson's Lincoln Memorial performance was about freedom, or the lack of it, in America in 1939. I'm Mark Green with the Oklahoman in Washington, and this Sunday, the Abraham Lincoln Bicentennial Commission staged a tribute to Marian Anderson on the same steps where she sang 7 decades ago. The United States Marine Corps Band, the Chicago Children's Choir, the group Sweet Honey in the Rock, and opera star Denise Graves all performed. The crowd was smaller than in 1939, a mix of people who'd heard about the concert and planned to attend, and passers-by with their children and pets who happened upon a fine way to spend a sunny, breezy Sunday afternoon. The event focused on Marian Anderson, who in 1939 was already an established opera voice. Yet she was singing outdoors on an Easter Sunday after being denied permission to perform at the Daughters of the American Revolution's Constitution Hall. Author Ray Arsenault talks about the events leading up to Anderson's historic performance.
Well, she was turned away by the Daughters of the American Revolution in January of 1939. She'd become so famous around the world and recently in the United States that they needed the largest hall possible. Washington had no municipal auditorium. The only 4,000-seat auditorium was the Constitution Hall, owned by the Daughters of the American Revolution. They had a white artist-only policy, and they would not make an exception for her, no matter how hard people tried to explain that she had a special status. Of course, the people who were arguing for her hoped that there would be a general breakdown in the color bar, but it didn't happen. Even after Eleanor Roosevelt, the most famous DAR member, she wasn't an active member, but she resigned in protest, and no First Lady had ever done anything like that before.
The Lincoln Memorial had been dedicated in 1922 before a segregated crowd, but in 1939 it wasn't yet the venue for civil rights-related events. In fact, the modern civil rights movement didn't really exist then. Arsenault says the Anderson concert turned the memorial into a civil rights symbol.
The Lincoln Memorial really was not thought of as a tribute to the great emancipator. Most American officials, at least, and probably most Americans, thought of him as the savior of the Union. Only later did he become clearly the great emancipator, and the Marian Anderson concert was a big reason why. So it wasn't sacred ground yet. Marian Anderson made it sacred ground. Of course, after her concert, it became the obvious place to hold civil rights rallies and meetings where you would like to inculcate the spirit of American democracy.
Anderson's singing became a rallying point in the effort to secure equal rights for all Americans.
So the fact that Marian Anderson was turned away from Constitution Hall and from Central High School in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, not by the children of the Confederacy, but by the Daughters of the American Revolution, the most famous national patriotic organization, sort of reinforced the notion this is the nation's capital, this is the DAR, this is an indignity to all Americans who believed in the American ideal.
So, 70 years later, Americans on a Sunday afternoon recalled Marian Anderson's artistic bravery.
I think it's fantastic. First African-American woman. I'm sure, from what I heard, she had many obstacles, and for most African-Americans, they had a lot of success overseas, and so to finally be recognized here in America is profound.
I think what she did was wonderful, but also what the First Lady did was extremely meaningful to all Americans. Eleanor Roosevelt's decision to find a venue for her to perform and also make a statement.
Marian Anderson was 96 years old when she passed away in 1993. The rest of her life was filled with professional achievements. Yet she is remembered as a historical figure for an open-air concert at a marble shrine to the country's 16th president, a key milestone on the way to perfecting the efforts of the great emancipator.
The concert, I think, gave people a glimpse of what America could become, what Dr. King and Congressman John Lewis and others later called the beloved community, where at least one day they could see, how they might live up to American ideals. And it certainly didn't turn people into racial integrationists overnight, but it was a crack in the mold. It was a beginning. You needed a number of these to set the the stage for a national civil rights movement, of course, that did emerge in full force in the 1950s and particularly in the 1960s.